In this episode, we're going to talk about why Jack Dorsey has stepped down as the CEO of Twitter and what factors might have played a role in his decision.
With so many different platforms,
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter,
and their purposes evolving daily, navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Cupco.
Social media really sucks.
Where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Welcome back to the Social Media Sucks podcast, you guys. You're tuning in for a dose of marketing and to get what's happening in the ever-changing social media landscape. And we have an evergreen piece of content with us today.
Why am I called evergreen piece of content again?
See you.
Is that because I'm wearing green?
You're like a Christmas tree. Yeah. So
I'm gonna listen. I am evergreen. Don't mess with me. I am fresh.
Yes.
Always.
Fresh Canadian. And then yes, Chris Carbonus, our CEO.
Instead of French Canadian, fresh Canadian.
You're a fresh Canadian.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Forced to be here, most likely.
I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, and then we have Andy Demian, our lead strategist here at Cupco. Welcome back.
Cool, good to be here.
Good
Always
to be here.
nice to have you guys.
Thank you.
Let's get into it. What do you guys think of this move from Jack
thank God.
Dorothy?
I'm so glad.
Yeah, what's
I think
the
it's
motivation
such a smart
behind
move.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very smart move.
I think that, as Jack also wrote, we're on a first name basis, Mr. Jack and me. As Jack, my good buddy Jack, as he wrote in his letter that, companies need to be able to break away from their founder. They need to have that opportunity to go out on their own and make their own path and make their own destiny. And I think he chose the right time, right?
Yeah.
There's a real temperature change in the social media landscape where the questions of the founders of that social media platform, do they matter, right? And should they be around? We talked about this before, about the metaverse. Like, I really feel like Mark Zuckerberg should be stepping down. Actually, he should have stepped down 2 years ago, right after the sort of like
Zuckerberg or Jack?
Zuckerberg. I think getting through Congress and doing that whole thing and getting past the sort of data leak with, what was the name of that company that had the data leak? It's all on the social network.
But I forgot about the name of the company.
Mind something, I think. But they, he should have stepped down then and said, you know what, it's time for this company to go in its own new direction. And I think that doesn't necessarily need to be me. I will still stay on as chair or stay on as person on the board, but I really think it's time to move on. And that's what, Jack has done. And I think it's an opportune time to do it. And it's a good move.
But you need to be able to overcome your ego and be self-aware and mature enough to make a move like that, I think. And I don't know, but to me it doesn't sound like Zucky. We are on nickname basis.
Zucky, what's up, Zucky?
Oh my
No,
God,
I don't think Mark Zuckerberg is
in for that.
Yeah.
No, he still has work to do on.
Yeah. I mean,
on
he
Facebook.
he theoretically gave away all his money for altruistic reasons, I think. But I still see him being mega rich and on the front line of Facebook, and everybody that I know kind of hates him, and therefore also the company.
Which is
So,
some is precedent. Like some makes sense and some doesn't. I mean, like I feel for the guy. He's got a pretty hard job, and he's
Yeah, of course.
And I think a lot of people don't like Jack Dorsey as well. I mean, there's a lot of people that have been sort of, against some of the moves. Well, yeah. I mean, like Twitter is sort of an extension of him as well, and I think he probably got a little bit of flack and also praise for getting rid of Trump on the platform.
Yeah.
There was the U.S. is very bipartisan and very, politically charged, and I think
So is Twitter.
Yeah, and so is Twitter, and that's also what is okay. Maybe he can remove himself a little bit from those discussions, but there's still been a lot of controversies surrounding him, and
But that's the thing when you're a public figure. I mean, you're gonna be hated and loved for whatever you do.
Yeah, and so I think he realizes that as well. But
do you guys think it will influence the political conversation in Twitter after his exit?
No, I think they'll continue doing that thing. But I think what they'll do is I think Twitter is one of the most interesting platforms right now. And,
I agree.
And the reason why I think that is because it is making moves that is putting it in a place where people feel more comfortable expressing themselves on that platform than a Facebook or a Instagram. And I think that it's in a very unique place within our social media landscape where it's not like any other platform. It's really, Instagram is very much like TikTok, like at the moment. And you can say Facebook is very much like Instagram at the moment. Like they're cannibalizing each other in some ways, right? And Twitter just sort of sits on its own as a very fast-paced news source, discussionary. You can hide behind an anonymous face.
And that's where culture lives, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's where real, like, platform. If people can be anonymous and really post what they think and really what they feel, I think like that breeds conversation. That breeds sort of interest. Whereas a Facebook or a LinkedIn, you could never have really highly charged conversations because it would just get shut down. Like you wouldn't do it. I mean, you'd risk, being banned, or you'd risk
canceled.
Canceled. You'd risk like hardcore sort of repercussions.
Yeah.
So I think Twitter's in a unique spot.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's super underutilized actually. Like a lot of the US brands are utilizing it well, but I think many other brands, especially in Europe, are sort of looking at it like a foster child. Where
Europe has always had a problem with Twitter. It hasn't really taken off here. Yeah,
but I think it's actually, looking at user data, it's growing in Europe at the moment, even though I know that the user base of Twitter is shrinking, or it was shrinking in the last 4 out of 5 quarters. So even though in Europe the user base is actually growing, so I think that's an interesting shift.
Yeah.
I think it would be super interesting to see how Twitter culture would look like Europeanized.
Yeah.
I think.
Do you think his exit will have any influence on that? How people perceive Twitter?
I think it'll perceive it as more grown up. Like I think that Jack is also a figure that is a bit of a rebel, a bit of a hippie,
like startup guy.
Yeah, a bit of a startup guy, and I think that just like what Microsoft sort of experienced when Bill Gates left, or Google when the founders left there, it marked a change in the atmosphere, and it marked a change in sort of, now we're a real company. It's kind of a weird feeling, but it is. It's like, okay, the founder's not here anymore. We're on our own. Yeah, we have to sink or swim, and I think that's, the founders have always brought a bit of cushion, and that cushion's not there anymore. So I think that's quite interesting. So I think it'll be good for the platform. I think they'll mature a bit. And I think it'll be exciting to see what they do. Yeah.
So where do you guys expect Twitter to go without Jack as CEO, but Parag?
I think it's going to be exciting to see where they are going to go. As Chris mentioned, a new era might come to the life of Twitter now. So what I'm expecting is that they will focus on actually growing their user base that was declining before. And I think they're going to do that by adding and testing out a bunch of new features. They were playing around with spaces a lot. They were playing around with a story-like feature. And I think what they're going to play around with next is probably vertical short-form video.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. I don't know exactly, but I think they need to test out new features. They need to be experimental and
cater
figure
more
out
to creators.
Yeah, figure out what's next.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Parag is an engineer. So he comes from that background and sort of rose up through the ranks. So he's had a lot of experience in different areas, whereas Jack has been more about sort of at the business. Of course, as a founder, like you kind of experience all levels. But for the past 10 years, maybe he has, maybe 5-6 years, he hasn't been in those trenches, right? So whereas Parag's a bit probably different, he has an experience on the technology side. So I think it'll be more feature driven. I think they'll be talking a little bit more about those extra areas of that. I think, the whole Twitter Spaces thing, I think becoming more of sort of leaning into Discord sort of way of dealing with channels, and sort of like, okay, let's just talk about this specific thing in this particular group or this particular area or space. I think that will be a clear sort of place where Twitter can sort of, then you're getting a feed that is more for like, this is the feed for NFT stuff and I really want to see this, or a feed for this sort of thing. So you can follow. I mean, they've already had sort of topic following, but I think it hasn't been rolled out as successfully as
No, it was
could
not
be.
that successful.
So more community-based also.
More
and kind of
community-based,
niche,
more niche.
yeah,
Like, because we're
topic.
seeing that across all platforms.
Yeah.
As all these niche platforms are pulling up. So it's probably where a lot of platforms will go, where the focus will be on the community side. Like Facebook has focused on groups and is now focused on even turning off what you want to see in your main feed.
Yeah.
I think we'll see this across a lot of platforms as more niche platforms come and compete. They also themselves have to offer some sort of niche abilities or what you'd get for a specific feed.
Yeah.
Specific
I
areas.
completely agree with that one, actually, because that's also where I would have said that they should go.
Yeah.
Now, especially that these niche communities are so empowered,
Yeah.
I think there definitely has to be a space
Yeah.
created for them.
Like welcome to like Black Twitter. Like there's a I mean that's a clear thing. Like people talk about Black Twitter and it's like
and a lot of
why
stuff
not,
is actually coming from there.
why not plant Twitter? Why not stocks Twitter? Why not NFTs Twitter? Why not that stuff will all pop up here I think in the next.
You guys are all in for new features and pages these days.
Yeah, it's always exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks you guys for sharing. Let me do a quick recap, which is we had an open discussion about Twitter CEO stepping down, and both Andy and Chris thinks is actually a quite good timing, and we can't wait to see what's coming in the new Twitter space, because it's definitely a move that will make people perceive Twitter as more mature. And perhaps now is the time for Twitter also to evolve and develop more features. And we look forward to see if they maybe will tap into this community-based space that multiple other platforms are leveraging and utilizing. So maybe now is the time for Twitter to also expand on their products, in-app products. So let's see what's next for Twitter. Thank you guys for listening. Subscribe, leave your feedback, your thoughts, especially for where do you think Twitter will head towards, and Jack Dorsey's exit. Let us know. I think Chris will definitely be interested to
what do you
read
think
the
his
comments.
next job is going to be?
Exactly. And
He just went to his other company.
Didn't
Didn't
Okay.
he?
Yeah.
You
He
should
was
know.
CEO
You
he was
should know.
CEO.
He's your good buddy.
He had a falling
Such
out.
popular. But please subscribe, leave your likes and comments, your feedback with us, and get a chance to win a $100 gift card. And thank you for listening. Stay tuned for the next one.
Adios, guys.
See you.
See you.
This has been the Social Media Sucks Podcast.